Welcome to feeling healthier and happier by healing the root causes of illness, which are usually your emotions, childhood trauma, your gut, your diet, your liver, burnout, and even generational trauma from your ancestors. I'm your host, Dr. Ameet Aggarwal, naturopathic doctor, Gestalt trauma psychotherapist, and family constellations therapist. After this show, you're also invited to join my emotional healing retreats around the world and get your free ebooks and courses on holistic medicine, trauma healing, family constellations therapy, and homeopathy at drameet.com. That's drameet.com. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Thanks, Andy. Super excited to dive into homeopathy, family constellations therapy, and really help people overcome the pain and even the surprise. And I'll talk about the surprise of abandonment and betrayal and why it's so important to heal the surprise as well.
Love it. Well, let's dive into that. So, I know that a lot of people come to you for mental health challenges as well as physical health issues, and these can, of course, stem from abandonment and betrayal. So, how do you combine all of these things that you do, right? Homeopathy, family constellations, and Gestalt psychotherapy to help people with these issues?
Depends on where the abandonment came from. Is it from your mom, your dad, or a partner? Yeah. If it's related to your nuclear family, your mom, your dad, or grandparents, I'll often use family constellations therapy there. Yeah. So I had a friend, for example, she was given away for adoption. And at 25 years old, she was allowed to ask the state if she can meet her mother. And she wrote a letter, and the the government gave the letter to the mom, and the mom didn't want to meet her after 25 years. It broke my heart. And of course, that caused a lot of pain for my friend. At the same time, it was so powerful because the response letter from the lawyers, from the government, was like, we met the mother. She was in good health and good mental state. Just those words reestablished a connection with my friend, with her mother. Just seeing the words that her mother was in good health and good mental state. So allowing, first of all, to acknowledge that, how do I say this? That the person is your parent, one. Number two, they did the best they could. Because often what we're hearing from the law is that most parents who don't want to see their given away children, they might do it because they're not ready to reveal it to the family, or it was a hidden, a hidden birth. And so they're not ready to reveal that to the new family that they're in, right? So there's many teachings in this story. One is understanding the other person's perspective. Yeah. Maybe mom or dad had too much on their plate. And so in family constellations therapy, we might say a sentence to your parents like, dear mom, dear dad, I see that you tried your best, or for what you could give me, I truly am thankful for the life you've given me. I see what happened for you. Yeah. Or even just naming what we don't often say, the naming the situation. So for example, in my friend's situation, she could say, I don't understand. Yeah. And you're still my mother, or I'm still your child. And I also have another family with me. Yeah. But just naming the surprise or the not understanding. So I don't understand, or that was very surprising for me. Because we often ignore our emotional response and we make a story about the situation. Oh, the person rejected me, they didn't like me. We don't go to that vulnerable response we have in us, which is usually sadness or surprise, or just, I wasn't ready for that. Just naming those sentences, I wasn't ready for that. That gives your nervous system some sort of acknowledgement. And when your nervous system or your inner child feels acknowledged, there's a discharge of trauma. Yeah, there's a release of the tension that we were stuck in that is leading towards anxiety, depression, low self-worth. That's usually with parent issues. For boyfriend, girlfriend, or partners, you can also say, I was really surprised about that. Or it could be expressing anger. So at the retreats that I do, we go into really acknowledging the pain that we felt, but going also, a lot of people, when they feel the pain, they collapse into sadness right away. Yeah, it's a pattern. It's a loop we go into. We feel the pain and go into sadness. inside or underneath some of that sadness, or before we get to sadness, there's often an element of anger or rage that we never look at. We don't allow ourselves to feel because of our story around anger. So I encourage my clients to say, like growl or say some swear words, or like just like, hey, I wasn't ready for that, or I have a right to be angry. Yeah. Even to your parents, you can say, I have a right to be angry. And when you claim that right, you get a sense of individuality and autonomy again, which is a very powerful experience for people because usually people are stuck in the story of abandonment and not feeling wanted, and that affects their self-esteem. And then they go into bad relationships or they compensate their own integrity while interacting with other people. But when you state to the abuser or the person who abandoned you or betrayed you, I have a right to be angry, you feel you feel your face, you feel your nervous system, you feel your body again in the midst of that surprise or that trauma. And that has a very deep physiological healing effect on both the body and the mind.
One of the things you just said that I'm curious if you could go into deeper, you said growl. So not something that as many people might share as a way to like express anger or what's there for you. Can you share a little bit more about how that could be helpful?
So it's either growl like like making a sound, or sometimes I'll have someone hold or press a cushion or an object and just press into it to access some sense of anger. So pressing, pressing, and imagining, even though you deny that you're in anger, explore feeling angry. And we're afraid of hurting other people or the shame around being angry at someone. So instead, hold on to something like a stone or a piece of wood or a cushion and just squeeze and just like when you put your teeth like this, like clench your teeth like that, it accesses your anger nervous system. Yeah, for lack of better words. And when you access your anger nervous system and you actually clench your fist, you're more in touch with a reality, a true feeling. Yeah. And so, in a way, you give yourself permission to feel all parts of your nervous system rather than being the nice person or the victim all the time. Yeah. Being angry doesn't make you a bad person. It just gives you access to a part of you that needed to protect yourself, defend yourself, and also feel seen and acknowledged. We want to feel seen and acknowledged in our sorrow, in our needing, in our loneliness. Many people don't realize we also need to be seen in our anger, in our rage, because that's a part of us. And if that person doesn't get seen, we slip into depression. I see time and time again, people who have suppressed anger or deny anger are holding on to depression. In fact, a lot of depression can stem from suppressed anger. And now that's where we go into also homeopathic remedies, which I'll cover soon for betrayal, abandonment, and also these suppressed emotions.
hmm Yeah, thank you for addressing that. It's funny. I was thinking actually of a couple of yoga classes I've gone to where the teacher has talked about like making noises, like and just like letting stuff go. And I always find that so helpful, just to make whatever noises you want to make and let things go and do things you wouldn't normally do. And I think it can be really powerful to do that and allow yourself to do that. And yes, getting in touch with that anger. I love that. What about blame? Because when we think about abandonment and betrayal, whether a child was abandoned in the example, I guess that more of the example that you originally gave, an adoption or what have you, or it's a breakup later in life with someone cheating on somebody or a betrayal in a family, lots of times people might blame themselves when these things
Mm.
happen. So what are some of the ways that people can heal that self-blame?
Gosh, okay, now we're going deep. So, what I'm channeling right now is something from actually A Course in Miracles. And there's a sentence in Course in Miracles where it says, God is the love in which I forgive myself. So, the exercise starts like this. You find the person first you're blaming or who abandoned you or hurt you. And you say something like, God is the love in which I forgive you to that person. And you keep on saying that sentence, and eventually you'll get to a place where you'll feel your part in the whole story. Yeah, so God is the love in which I forgive myself for having expectations of this person. Yeah, or really feeling this pain. So you forgive yourself for this pain because sometimes we have a story about the pain we're feeling as well that it shouldn't be there. We shouldn't have these feelings. we should get over it. And that throws us into a vicious cycle of self-blame and negativity. So we have this pain that we're trying to get over, but we're also blaming ourselves for having these feelings, right? So in self-blame, for example, I blame myself often for a breakup I had. Yeah, I feel it was my fault. And what I'll do, a personal exercise would be, I wasn't ready for that. Yeah, I forgive myself for not being ready for that event, for the breakup. Or I forgive myself for taking the time to really explain what I needed to do. So simple sentences like, I forgive myself for what happened. I know it sounds almost too superficial, but the more you practice it, the more your body relaxes and understands that, okay, is it very important for you to stay in this story of self-blame? Yeah. Or is it okay to forgive yourself? Now, many people will have difficulty with self-forgiveness and will stay in self-blame because that is their way of staying responsible or feeling responsible for what happened. And this desire to stay responsible for what happened actually comes from childhood. So our parents point at us saying, this is your fault. You need to take responsibility. And we swallow that information as if, gosh, we've done bad. And when we've done bad, we are responsible. Yeah, it's us to blame. And so when something happens, when somebody betrays us or there's a breakup, we imagine that something bad has happened. Yeah. So it's like the experience of something bad happening then triggers our childhood memory of, okay, we have to be responsible for this event, or we're going to blame rather than forgiveness. If your parents brought you up with forgiveness, saying, oops, you did a boo-boo, but here's a hug, you know, there'll be less of that self-correction or sense of guilt. If somebody's really struggling with healing this part of themselves, I'll often give them a homeopathic remedy like Aurum metallicum, which is great for a sense of depression, failure, sense of guilt, and suicidal thoughts. Or there's a Bach flower remedy called pine. Pine is an excellent remedy for self-blame, low self-worth, and low self-esteem. Yeah. So really somebody in self-blame, it depends. We look at their childhood history as well. Yeah. And of course, the event that happened. So I do acknowledge that, I cheated on you. Yeah. So it's not that, how do I say it? It's like I forgive myself for cheating and I acknowledge this part in me that wanted to cheat. I also acknowledge your part in it. Maybe you were busy, um, entangled with your mother's trauma or you weren't fully available in this relationship. Yeah. So I know I'm giving multiple answers, but I just want to give an overall picture that there's multiple causes for a breakup or an abandonment, and we need to look at the cause. Yeah. In relationships, often, and we do this in family constellations therapy, in relationships, when relationships are not working well, one of the partners is often either cheated on the other or is entangled with a family member. Typically, it's a parent who has a lot of pain, trauma, or has passed on. So, for example, if my mom died from cancer, which she did, and I was really busy trying to heal her to save her life, my heart is busy rescuing my mom. I'm the child, not her doctor, but I took on a role of being a practitioner and I stopped being her child in a way. Yeah. And so my heart, my mind, the way I'm looking, the direction I'm looking is so focused on my mom that my girlfriend would feel my absence energetically. Even though we're communicating, I'm not really fully there for her. So there'll be a distance between us. And that distance can then feel like a gap in the relationship. And many people feel this. The relationships are not fulfilling anymore. They're not fulfilling because one of us has an entanglement. One of you has an entanglement with a family member or an ancestor or something else in your life. And when this non-fulfillment is experienced, one of the couple will likely look to somebody else. Will say, oh, that feels more fulfilling, or that reminds me more of my mom, or that feels more complete for me. This kind of relationship feels more complete for me. Right? And then we betray the partner, or we get betrayed. But the thing is, the cycle continues. You end up doing the same pattern with the next partner and the next partner until you heal the family entanglement that you're carrying for yourself.
Yeah, and you mentioned, thank you for sharing your personal experience, Ameet. I love that. And it brings a lot to the conversation. I don't think you've ever shared that about your mom before. And I'm curious, you mentioned that some people might be in a relationship and start looking outside of that relationship for a relationship that's more complete for them. And then I think of course, the Jerry Maguire movie from my childhood, which was about, the Renee Zellweger and or what was his name, Tom Cruise, talking about how you complete me, and how this is something that I've rolled around in my mind for so many years. That is it really possible for one human to complete another? And then that goes into codependency. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how to heal a feeling of incompleteness in
Mm.
oneself, without having to seek someone outside of them to complete them. Big,
Very
big
powerful
question.
question. Let's see if I can answer this. Of course, as I said before, there's many causes of feeling non-complete. Yeah. One could be that as a child, one of your parents left you. So you felt you're not fully supported. Yeah. You're missing. So when we're missing a parent, like from early childhood, we often experience that there's something incomplete within us. Because when something happens in our childhood, we blame ourselves. One, many people who don't feel really complete, either their father is occupied with um, his dead mother or his father, or the mother is also occupied with somebody, yeah, emotionally or energetically. And so even though you have both parents there, you will feel a sense of incompleteness from childhood. Yeah. And you'll walk around with this sense. And then, yes, a soulmate might come into your life, or somebody might come in life and might feel like beautiful and sparks might fly. 3 years down the road, there's cycles of love. Yeah. 3 years and then 7 years. 3 years down the road, you'll feel like, something's missing in this relationship. And we go back to that sense of something's not feeling fulfilling here. But you're really going back to your innate kind of upbringing in a way. And so, for example, in many cases, I will get in the retreats we do, I might get a person to stand and feel both parents behind them. Yeah. Or I'll place representatives. Yeah. People kind of participants in the retreat to kind of represent the mother and father of this client. And then I'll watch and I'll often see one of the parents is looking in a different direction away from the client rather than, so parents are supposed to look towards each other and the child can either face the parents or face their life, depending on the dynamics of the family. But often when a parent is looking the other way, the child will sense this without knowing what happened. Yeah. And then to heal this, we can say a sentence like, Dad, please look at me. I need you. Or, Dear mom, I know dad is not looking at you, but it's not my pain to carry for you. Yeah. So here's another example. What's causing the incompleteness is because we're carrying the sense of incompleteness from our mother or from our father who was abandoned by their partner. Yeah, typically it's mom feeling neglected by dad. And so we will feel this sense of neglect and emptiness on behalf of mom. This is a big entanglement many people have. And so the sentence I'm going to repeat again, Dear mom, I see you're missing dad. Yeah, I see your loneliness. I will carry this with you. And when you say I will carry this with you, you realize, gosh, it's not mine to carry, actually. So you can say, Dear mom, this belongs to you. Please forgive me if I leave this between you and dad. And then you get a sense of completeness in your own nervous system. And when you have this completeness and you're not so entangled with your mom's pain or trauma, or one of your parents or siblings' trauma, then you're more free to look at your own life, to be more present for your life and your new partner. Yeah. And so with this presence, there's a sense of completeness. You're more ready to go into a healthy relationship. Otherwise, you'll attract somebody who likes mothering you, or you'll attract somebody who likes to ignore you, because we're kind of attracting, honestly, the character of one of our parents. It happens all the time.
Yep, been there. Very, very much so. Yeah, thank you. That was beautiful to really kind of take a look at that, those feelings of incompleteness and where they're stemming from and how we can, yes, do that kind of work in order to come to a place of completeness within ourselves, outside of any other relationship and what have you. You mentioned the homeopathic remedies a bit ago. Do you want to go deeper into that? Like what other ones you recommend for people struggling with mental health challenges after an abandonment or betrayal?
Yeah, so what happens after abandonment or betrayal? First of all, we go into fight, flight, or freeze response. It's a trauma. And when you get into fight, flight, or freeze response, your adrenal glands go wonky, they get burnt out often, yeah, and our stress levels increase. And when this happens, our cortisol levels go out of balance, and that suppresses neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, GABA, melatonin. Yeah, GABA is for anti-anxiety, serotonin is your feel-good neurotransmitter. So when these are off balance, of course, we can use amino acids and supplements to support our adrenal glands and restore our neurotransmitters. But we need to heal the root cause. We need to heal the trauma. And homeopathy is amazing at healing abandonment and betrayal, and also anxiety and depression stemming from these events. So one of my favorite remedies for people suffering from betrayal is Ignatia Amara. Yeah, that's excellent for somebody who has a sense of surprise, anxiety, a lump in their throat, crying often, and just feeling really shaky. So I cover all these remedies in my course, but I'll give you a few more examples. Natrum muriaticum is great when you've lost someone or feel abandoned by a loved one, and you go into this withdrawal, and there's more sadness and what we call I never know how to pronounce the word melancholy or something like that. And you cry easily with music, and maybe you're craving salty foods and comfort foods. That's typically a typical picture of Natrum muriaticum. So you can see Nat Mur or Natrum muriaticum has a more depressive picture, and Ignatia has a more anxiety picture. And that's the beauty of homeopathy is we look at the entire picture of a person. Yeah. Is it more anxious? Is it more depressed? Is there more guilt? Is there more suicidal thoughts? And we also look at the type of trauma a person has. Was there loss of a loved one? Was there betrayal? Was there death of a loved one? Was there a financial betrayal? So was there financial loss as well? Right? So based on that, I'll choose the remedy. And homeopathy works really well because we we look at the totality of symptoms and use a remedy that matches all the symptoms rather than antidepressants, which just mask symptoms and suppress symptoms. You need to find a remedy that takes into account the tearfulness, the lump in your throat, the sense of betrayal, the sense of loneliness. Do you feel unsafe or do you feel not good enough? All these things matter when selecting a remedy. And because I take all these things into account, the remedy goes deeper because we have a more exact match.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing about those. And I think I pronounce the word melancholy, but that's just how I pronounce it. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is a good word though, and not used very often either, melancholy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, wonderful. Thank you for going deeper into the remedies. And we've talked family constellations, we've talked homeopathy as it relates to abandonment and betrayal. Let's talk about how people can dive deeper. So you have many resources in your website, etc. We've got a button below linking over to that. Can you share about what you have?
Yeah, so there's free videos on gut health, emotional healing. There's a beautiful emotional healing exercise that will help you get in touch with the emotions you're afraid of, whether it's fear, anger, depression, etc. Um, then there's a full online course as well on homeopathic remedies, emotional healing exercises, Bach flower remedies, herbs and supplements for your gut, liver, adrenal glands. And we're doing retreats around the world for using trauma healing, family constellations therapy. There's also a family constellations therapy course on that same website. And you're welcome to come to one of the retreats as well, either in Kenya, where we'll combine beach time with safari, or we're doing one in Peru as well. I do a lot of retreats in Sardinia and Greece. So these are all fun places to really explore deeper healing amongst like-minded people. So it's a really beautiful, safe setting where you get the right kind of support for your healing journey.
All those places sound fabulous. Good locations. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Ameet. And we've got that button below, everyone, linking over to Dr. Ameet's website. You can go check out all of his amazing resources and dive deeper with him. Any last insight you'd like to leave us with?
Family constellations therapy is a very powerful form of psychotherapy, an approach that is changing the lives of millions of people because it's going to the root cause of our emotional disturbance and our character. Yeah, our character, whether you're more anxious, depressed, is not necessarily your soul's character. It's a character that you create based on childhood experiences and also based on the traumas that your mother, father, grandparents have been through. Or if there's been abortion or miscarriage in your family that you don't acknowledge or not aware of, you will absorb these kind of traumas in your system and you will have a character that is kind of loyal to these traumas in your family. And so by using family constellations therapy, you disentangle from these unseen traumas that unconsciously you've taken on and unconsciously you're acting out. Yeah. And when you resolve these unseen traumas with love, with respect for your ancestors, for your parents, for your siblings, you emerge as a more powerful being and a more clear, authentic person. And that gives you the ability to get into better relationships, have more success in your life, and even be healthier.
Thank you so much for doing this with us, as always.
Thank you, Andy. Lots of love, everyone. Thanks for learning how to heal the root cause. Make sure to also get your free ebook and courses I've created for you on naturopathic medicine, trauma healing, family constellations therapy, and homeopathy at drameet.com. That's drameet.com. Thanks and lots of love.